Hi, everybody. This is On, and I'm coming to you with the Connecting Code Insights for August 2023. And you know, this is just interesting times. It's very interesting to watch people's responses and reactions as things come out. When we look in the year codes, and for those who are wondering, this is a book that I put out every year. Uh-oh, maybe there. Well, can't quite see it because I've got my own picture in the background right now. I'm in a space that I can't really show the background, and so I took this picture while I was in Grand Marais, Minnesota, and so it is one that I took directly myself. But anyways, the Code Journey for 2023 is the book that's currently active. Every year I put out a new edition, so 2024 is about ready to be released over the next month and become available, and it's got all kinds of insights. Not It's a blend. It gives us a heads up on things that are happening in our world and what to pay attention to, as well as what is going down with us personally, feelings we might have, experiences we might be having. And of course, they're all interrelated because our personal experiences and world influences are all going down at the same time, and they all share the same code or energetic patterns, which is what I use to take a look and see what's going on in the world and some of the things that we can expect to be coming down the pike. It's not about predicting everything, or it's not based on intel. I don't go down those paths, but it is based on an ability that I have to see and to integrate many different things into the process of what's happening, and then make some of those connections of what we might be able to expect or see or come up with as we go through things. So this month in August 2023, and I'm recording this a little bit early, so I'm sure there's a lot that's going to be coming down, even by the time this comes out, that I'm not even thinking about or considering at that point. But all month long, what we're going to see is a strong desire for freedom coming up. Freedom, adventure, exploration. People are not willing to sit back and just take the norm, the confined, the structures of things. So we're probably going to see more protests come up during this time. We're probably going to see more people becoming vocal in places. Not that we haven't seen that already, but I think we're going to see more and more people speaking up, more and more people coming around saying, yeah, we've got to stand strong for this. We've got to have the freedom. We're not willing to take the restrictions. And if you're going to play these restriction games, we are going to hold you accountable. So people are not willing to be confined. They're not willing to play in the matrix, so to say. They're not willing to play in the corrupt's hands. And this is going to get very interesting because we are in basically a 4-month period right now where we have a lot of big shifts and a lot of big changes and a lot of attempts to put out a lot of corrupt agendas, a lot of agendas that are not favorable for humanity, not favorable for the earth, and they're all being put out under that pretense that they are. And so people are starting to see deeper and deeper into things, and they're starting to see and feel that confinement that they have in the world, and where these attempts to restrict people are coming down more. And so people are going to be looking more, how do we support the freedom? How do I live more freely? They're willing to give up some things in order to maintain that freedom. They don't want to be forced into giving things up, but they are willing to do it in order to maintain the freedom that they would like to see. This also is probably going to lead more people to reach out, to connect with people in other places of the world, to see what other countries are doing, to see what other cultures are doing in the world, and to explore the different possibilities. And this is actually going to end up bringing up a lot of information. We're already seeing it as they talk about things around the bird virus, the avian flu, these sorts of things. And people are starting to put the pieces together. Oh, these certain cultures, they never ever take vaccines and they never have certain health issues. Coincidence? I don't know. and that's something you can decide for yourself. But that being said, okay, if we look at these different pieces, if we explore the different ways different countries and people are doing things and who's had what structure and who's been under a lot of structure and who's been under a lot of freedom and how has that played out, that is going to open up so much insight. And people, I think, are going to be looking for those ways. How do I live more freely? They're going to be coming much more into an aspect of values, core values that are important to them. They want to be able to live life. They want to be able to experience life. They want to connect with values more than they want to work. And this is a balance we have to be very careful of, because when people are in this space, I absolutely 100% plus 1000% support being in values, being in a place where you are experiencing life. But that's also got to be balanced in some way. And when I say that, that is because we don't want to get to the point where we say, well, I don't want to work at all. Now, a lot of people are in that space right now where they want to give up. They just are like, can I get off of this planet? How do I get out of this matrix? How do I, you know, get through all of these crazy things that are happening in our world? And we don't want them to get complacent, because when people get in that mindset that, well, I'll just live a little more simply, or, I'm going to go fully for values, and then they don't work and they don't put forth any effort, they actually then start supporting and playing into these systems that are dictatorial, that play into the authoritarian systems, that play into these systems that take total control over their life. And that's where we have to be very careful about things. So finding that balance, and what we want to do is, yes, we want to work, but we want to find out, how do we bring our working environment? How do we bring our businesses into values? How do we get them to go down that path? And we do it by supporting them or not supporting them. And I'm seeing different things come out. A friend of mine, she's getting ready to be involved in something where they are actually putting together a magazine that is going to be centered around family valued events. So events that are safe for families, so whereas the mainstream media wants to promote, for example, drag shows and taking kids to that, they will be promoting those events that are maybe music based, or local artists, or things that families and kids can be involved in, where it will be a safe environment for them, that they can all participate together. So supporting those family values. And I think this is a big thing, is coming back around to who is standing in values and who is not. And I think we will see in August again that continued tumbling of businesses, corporations coming down, who are not standing in values, and who are replacing people who don't want to work with, some of that may be illegal immigrants. A lot of that is going to be AI and technology. That's we're going to see another big thing come out, and this can become actually a selling point, a huge selling point for AI and technology that they want to roll out to replace humans in the work field. And say, well, look, now you'll be able to experience your life if you buy into the central bank digital currency that we want to roll out. You can go experience your life all that you want, and you don't have to work. And so this is, again, we have to be very, very careful in these things, because sure, we would all love life to be nothing but enjoyable, but the reality of it is that we lose a lot if we're not doing any kind of work whatsoever. And again, the key is not about working or not working as much as it is holding what we do with ethics and values. So that ethics and values piece is going to become very big. It's going to get used to try to sell you things that are not favorable, that are damaging for humanity, damaging for the earth. So again, I think this is going to probably connect in with a lot of AI technology, seeing more and more robots and AI implemented things used to alleviate humans from the workforce. So I think that's going to roll out in August, even on the next layer or the next step of that. reprioritizing our life, releasing materialism and status. And this is an interesting thing because I think what we'll do is we'll probably see a lot of people pretending, and I want to emphasize pretending to renounce the materialistic status when in reality they're really going down still a very materialistic path. And I think we're going to have to watch this um, a bit and make sure that we are not putting people on a pedestal, that we are not praising them because they have a certain title about them or things like that. We need to really take a look and say, okay, I need to step more into spirit. I need to release these materialistic factors. It's time to stop chasing the money. That doesn't mean you can't be comfortable or enjoy life or any of that, because you definitely can. And I'm all for people thriving and having a beautiful lifestyle and all of that. But it's a matter of, are you chasing the materialism or are you chasing the values? And what happens is when people chase the values, when people release their addiction, and I think maybe that's a good way to put it, their addiction to materialism, then materialism stops having power and influence over them. When materialism stops having power and influence over our life, the corruption naturally loses power. And so I think we're going to see some anxiety, some tension, some fear that's going to come up in those that are trying to push forth these unfavorable agendas. And, these are agendas from everything from, future lockdowns, from smart cities, from, electric vehicles and getting rid of all gas powered vehicles and multiple things, lab grown food. And I mean, you can go on and on about all the agendas that are out there. And so that reprioritizing automatically removes power and influence from those people. So they may have a lot of money, but we still hold the power. And that's what we have to keep in mind. So if we are not allowing ourselves to be controlled by what they're selling, so to say, if we're not allowing ourselves to be addicted to material things, they will have less and less power. So I think we're going to see maybe some things come up trying to push the materialistic side on people more, whether that is through beauty things, whether that's through sex appeal, whether that is through um, uh, a great life, a high income, or whatever it is. And we've seen this. It's very interesting to watch this generation that's in their 20s right now, because they're grouping, a lot of them went into the pharmaceutical industry because it paid big bucks, whether it was sales or repping in some way or connecting with the medical centers or all of this stuff. And now a lot of them, interestingly, are starting to develop a conscience. Not all of them, obviously. There's plenty that are just there for the money and they're good and yeah, give me all the vaccines I need and, and all of those types of things. But on the other hand, you've got a lot that are saying, I'm not sitting well with this. Yeah, I like the money and I like the lifestyle, but I'm not sitting well. And why was this generation targeted? This generation was targeted because they've been raised in so much materialism, most of them, not all of them, a lot of materialism, and to pursue material things and to pursue status and pursue this. And here's a quick way to get, all of these things you want in life. And so when when they looked at it, it all sounded good, as it does to most of us when we're really young and we're in our 20s, and right, we want to prove ourselves in the world and we want to get that house and that car and all these things. And now a lot of them are having these second thoughts. So what's interesting with that when I think about it is this reprioritizing. How is that going to affect certain industries? And I think we're going to see another dive hit the entertainment industry during this month. And I think we'll see another dive hitting or another hit to the pharmaceutical industry during this month as a result of that. And people saying, nope, I think I will just live a little more healthy instead of doing this and doing this. And starting to have more come out about that impact of quality of life. So think about the things that impact your quality of life, right? A lot of drugs, a lot of unhealthy foods, a lot of things that have been promoted as healthy but aren't healthy. um, all of these things, lockdown information. So we'll probably see some more information come out in regards to the damage of lockdowns, the psychological trauma of that. Um, People who are struggling a lot with depression these days and needing to reprioritize, say, hey, I need to do something that's more physical. I need to get outside. I need to be under the sun. And this all plays into agendas because a lot of the agendas don't want people outside. They don't truly want them being physical because when you're physical and you're outside and you're doing things, your body naturally starts to clear things like depression. It detoxifies the drugs in your system. If you've been on prescription drugs or other types of drugs or even natural, the holistic remedies for that matter. Um, so it does a lot of things. You get the sun, you get the vitamin D, you get all of these pieces, and I think that that is a huge component in there. So a lot of exposure coming out on things connected to quality of life and what has inhibited it and what has added to it, and that's going to make people rethink. It's going to make people rethink things. Travel is going to interestingly increase during the month of August, especially international travel. So, what I would say is we need to keep our eyes on political figures, people in positions of power that are doing international travel. Where are the Clintons at? Where is Gates at? Where is Kamala at? Where is Biden at? Which world leaders are traveling around and connecting with each other? That is going to be a big thing for us to keep our eyes on because that's going to give us a big indication as far as some of these hidden networks that are going on, and also which agendas may roll out. So we know, for example, if you've got a bunch of dignitaries or political position people and they're going over to areas like Taiwan and they're going over to areas like China, well, you can figure that plays into war aspects between China and Taiwan. That plays into war aspects in certain countries. If they're suddenly visiting Ukraine a whole bunch more again, then we know that there's going to be some things breaking out more with Russia and Ukraine going on. And some of these aspects, if there's a lot of contact going with China during the month of August, then we can, look at where this is going to connect into attempts towards nuclear weapons, using those World War III component agendas, those sorts of things. So we want to pay attention to those international um, traveling that's going on because that's going to tell us a lot about which direction and what they're going to be focusing on with things. Likewise, we could also see some things coming up in connection to international travel. So when I think of that, I think automatically, well, yes, the airlines are always an obvious thing. So there may be something going down with that. But cruise ships, again, cruise ships have been kind of quiet for a while. And I think cruise ships might come back up into the limelight during this time. There could be some other things that do that, but why the sudden international? So I think the international travel that we see in the world will be connected to solidifying or setting plans in place for the next step that they want to take. Chances are that is going to connect to war because that's the most common um, factor that's likely to come out of all the agendas that we see is war, weaponry, this sort of things. Now, you could also have some people that do some traveling to, to try to make some deals or to try to make some bargains or peace. Or so you might see some of that going on. Some will be presented as trying to find peace, but will not. They will actually be solidifying plans for war. So we want to keep our eyes on that. Again, lots of lies, deception, manipulation, that continues to be a pattern. It's ongoing. We have it in multiple places in the codes. It's so pronounced at this point. There are lies and deceptions. I mean, we're getting just tape after tape after tape after tape every day of them exposing themselves, of these people that are putting through the agendas. Just here at the middle of the month, of July, Kamala came out, for example, and said, um, uh, was giving a talk on something and flat out said to decrease the population, you know, and it was connected to, various things like vaxes and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it just flat out said, "Here's our agenda." I mean, they're just blatant about it, and uh, people are finally, sadly, it takes a good scare, but they're finally getting it. They're finally starting to realize, yeah, these people are slipping up, and they're actually saying what they're meaning at times with this, and they are exposing themselves. They're exposing themselves in a lot of things. And I think that, we're going to see where a lot of promises were made by leaders. We're going to see a lot of those not work out for them. And they're going to be exposed in lies, or where they said that something was about one thing, like helping the people of Ukraine. I think we could see some exposure coming out where it wasn't actually about helping the people of Ukraine. It was about protecting um, the information that's connected to the biolabs in Ukraine that are going on, and how that connects, and how that heads up has been given for a long time, and been warning about this, the creation of bioterrorism through what's being created in the labs. So I think there's going to be even more coming out about that. So again, a lot of these international connections, relationships, partnerships opening up, and a lot of, again, this self-exposure. Those people who are going down these paths of deceptions and lies and things like that, who have been on that path, um, they're just going to come out. They're kind of getting tired of waiting, honestly. So we're going to see more of that self-exposure, saying, "Oh yeah, I intended to hurt this person," or I intended to sabotage them." And sabotage is going to be a big thing, because um, those who are shining divine light in the world, um, they're going to be bringing up a lot of exposure. So the stronger, the more people we have standing in that divine light, that divine presence, God energy, whatever it is for you. I know I have people of a lot of different belief systems that listen in, and and that light is going to be exposing things, and it will expose the sabotage, um, where the light cannot be squashed, where people cannot be silenced. Um, there are going to be the attempts to sabotage, but they'll do it in such reckless ways that they will show exactly the treachery and the betrayal. So we have to stay alert. We have to stay alert on things. We need to stand in that truth. We need to stand in the integrity and keep holding that space, because that is what will bring it up to the light. That is what will bring the exposure forward in there. So, being that this specifically connects with treachery and betrayal, I would say that in August we're going to see more things come out that involve Trump. We're going to see more things come out around him of the treachery and the betrayal that has happened in there. I think we're going to see more get more information about where there were attempts to sabotage him, and where these things open up. So they've wanted everybody to believe that these are just stories that people are running rampant with, and so on and so forth. But I think, here again, a lot of that's going to come to the surface, and we're going to see more of the attempts of things. We're going to see, maybe between international leaders, and again, probably um, Putin and Zelensky will be on the forefront with this as well, seeing where they have been sabotaged. And so, we're going to start to see who really did what to who, and have Putin's actions been out of line. I'm not saying Putin's a good guy, but is he out of line for what he's been through? Did he try to bring the warnings forward and they weren't taken care of? Was he being sabotaged in some way? Was Trump being sabotaged? Were other people being sabotaged? We have other leaders that I think might come back up in some of our South American countries, or the Southern Hemisphere, and things. And so this whole dynamic of sabotage And that's all going to connect back into these same players around the world of how they have tried to sabotage different people. When we think of this, we are probably also going to see more things come out in regards to the social media companies where there was suppression, where there was restriction. I'm seeing a lot of it. It's kind of like it's back pretty strong these days. I've just been blocked from posting in all of my LinkedIn groups. They won't allow me to post anymore because LinkedIn put a restriction on me. Facebook is putting restrictions on me like daily. And, so we're going to come back and see that indeed, you know, their suppressing of information, their restrictions on people is really a form of sabotage. So I think that's going to come up into the limelight. Now, as we get forward and we look at from the 1st through the 23rd and the core monthly aspects of things, we're going to see where a lot of efforts that have been put in motion, they may have been put in motion a while back, they may have been put in motion more recently, but we're going to start to see that success, and that's going to happen again, particularly for those people who are able to be trying to initiate peace in the world, for those people who are who are standing in the truth, who are standing in integrity, and we're going to see more success coming in. Their efforts are going to start to pay off. So some of these things where there's been accusations of, well, nothing's happening in the House and nothing's happening in the Senate, and nothing's happening in Parliament or whatever it is, and they're going to come back and they're going to start to, those successes are going to surface. Their efforts are going to start to become visible, and we are going to see there's been a lot going on that has not been reported, that has not been brought to the surface. One of the things that comes to mind in that energy, particularly, is Maloney over in Italy, and where, of course, she recently banned the GMOs in all of their food system. And I think we're going to start seeing she may come into the limelight of having those successes and where her efforts have been paying off. She's been putting forth a lot of energy into things. So that's just an example of somebody that might come into the limelight under that influence. Peace through responsible action. Our biggest responsibility right now is to peace. We need to find ways to generate peaceful outcomes. This again could bring Trump back into the limelight, like him or not. He has the ability to negotiate and create deals that can bring peace into the world. Is his whole thing going to be full right now? I'm not sure it is, because I'm not sure the timing is completely right for that. But we will also, under this influence, see those people who are trying to destroy peace, those people who are trying to destroy, create wars, and try to bring this destruction between countries, try to bring the upheaval between them. And so that's going to be a big thing. So our key responsibility is, what can we do to generate peace? And peace comes when we stand in the truth, we stand in the integrity, we stand up for values, and we get strong and we get vocal about that. And we do not allow those things that are going to interrupt it. If you have a lot of illegal aliens with criminal backgrounds, and these connections to terrorists and things like that, and you're allowing them into the country, you're not generating peace in there. And when you're doing that, you're disrupting the peace. So, our focus needs to be, well, how do we start to, bring the things into place that will stop some of those pieces, because that's how we're going to find peace, is to stand up and to uphold that integrity in there. So peace is a huge priority, and that's why I think the war components that I talked about previously are going to come into play, because they are working against that peace, and that is the exposure of those people who are not working for the benefit of people or working for the benefit of the world or any of that. They are actually trying to trigger wars in the world. And of course, we know the triggering of wars is all about stimulating money for them, not necessarily for the people, not for the well being, not as protection, but stimulating money for those who are already basically governing the world and doing it at the cost and the expense of the taxpayer, because the taxpayer pays in the taxes to fund the wars. And then that all comes back. They circle around, they use their partnerships, and that all comes back around into um, using the war to fund their own pockets, their own people, which then is this network between 501(c)(3)s and all of this where this organization receives money for doing something and then they donate and make a charitable contribution to another partner organization and they donate to another partner organization, they donate to another partner organization, that partner organization donates back and provides a kickback to the person that started the whole cycle. This is part of these corrupt networks that are out there that are just um, sabotaging, sabotaging people, sabotaging humanity in the world. So, big thing for us to keep a focus on. Groups, companies, people that are lacking integrity are going to lose support. So, this is going to be a big thing. We look at Bud Light. Bud Light continues to be in the news. There's a couple of people, celebrities, that continue to promote these products. They are going to lose major ground in August. People are tired of it. People are looking for who is doing integrity. So again, supporting more of the small businesses, the individuals that aren't playing these political games, and that's going to be a big thing. So we're going to see another huge drop off, whether it is an organization, a group, or a business that is lacking integrity, and we're going to see huge dives. And of course, that's going to affect our stock market when we consider that, because when these companies play these games, and then people don't want to support them, and then they lose billions, trillions, whatever dollars in their company, and then the stockholders are like, well, we're not so happy about that that you're losing all of this money because you want to play this political game. And so the chain goes, and then if they go under, then that's a lot of that's a lot of loss, and we're going to see a lot of loss, and that's going to come to the limelight. Of course, the good side of that is we get to see who is and is not standing in integrity in the process. So these companies, they've been very protected over the last few decades, and they're finding out they're not so protected anymore because people are not just turning everything over, and they're not going to play the games. Looking at this, also a lot of physical financial hardships coming up. So again, we're probably going to hear more diseases being released. The avian flu is a big thing that they're working on right now. We're probably going to hear more about outbreaks of that, as well as other things that are malarial connected in the world. We're going to see more, again, more pleas like from Zelensky or Ukraine saying, oh, we need more money for war. We need more money for war. And look at how financially poor we are, and all of these things. But we're also going to see a lot of people where as they start to move into this integrity, they will go through transition periods. So a lot of people around the world are going to be in this transition period where they're going to be breaking away from traditional structures, from traditional companies, traditional jobs. And they may go through a period where they're not doing so great financially, where they don't have an income going on while they make the transitions. And so even those companies that are trying to turn around, or those organizations that are trying to turn around, for the ones that do, we can very easily in August see a period that is harder before it gets better sort of component in there, because those transitions can be very, very difficult, and it can take some time for things to come about in there. So yeah, those people who are working strictly for money, it's going to be a bit hard on them. But also the average person, just the average person we're going to hear more reports probably of them feeling worn down, of people again building the illness narrative because they have some things they're trying to roll out, like this avian flu and stuff that they're already testing the vaccine for before they ever even release it fully. So that's weird things, and that's literally changing eye color. Yeah, look that one up. Look that one up. That was flat out on your regular, actually, ironically, on your regular news, and they tried to make it a big praise thing, like, oh, look, the eye color changes from blue to black now. And and they're trying to blame it on the flu, but of course, those who know better know, it's connected to other things and not the flu itself. Um, in this. So again, we also have to be careful because I think we could see some releases of additional diseases. So those who are in the northern hemisphere, get out there and get your sun. If you can get sun, get your sun. Do the things you need to do to boost your immunity. Take the time to get your rest. Make sure that you're honoring what you need for your body, because our bodies are going to be more vulnerable. And those people who are not taking care of themselves, we're going to start to see them having more and more health issues. And that is going to come out. And that's going to be used to promote the narratives, to promote and push people in certain directions. They're going to be looking to use that as groundwork for bigger things coming down the pike. From the 24th through the end of the month, so that kind of last week of the month, we're going to see where corruption wants to interfere with self-care. And when we see that, that means that we might see them um, trying to impose restrictions on, for example, vitamins, nutrients, natural remedies. We'll probably see more come out that will be presented under the basis of climate change aspects of trying to restrict things like eggs and animal products and different things like that. And of course, there's all kinds of different components there. I think we're also going to see something really come out in connection to maybe the Paris Treaty and the global powers that have been given to WHO, the World Health Organization, which, of course, by the way, is not for your health. Keep that in mind. That is not for your health. These people do not really have a health background. They're not really about health. This is about power and control. When you start to follow the chains through, you will see that and you will find that. And they want to interfere with people's ability to have their own self-care. So I think that last week of August, we are going to see one of the preliminary trial runs where the WHO comes out and tries to implement that global treaty power that they've been given by most countries, or a lot of countries, and they're going to try to be telling people what they can and cannot do, and how they have to care for themselves and different things like that, um, and restricting people and trying to confine them and different things. So I think we're going to see something connected to WHO in that last week of August. Now, when we start to look at the pieces of, where are the actions? Where's the activity part going to come out during the month? During the month of August, we're going to have to do a lot of caution with others. So we're going to see a lot of betrayal going on. That could work two ways. We will see the betrayal between corrupt people to corrupt people. We will see betrayal of people where they thought somebody was on their side and they're not. This always indicates to me more sleepers coming out of the woodwork. So those people who have been pretending to be on one side of the fence and they're actually on the other side of the fence. So that's going to probably be, very confusing for a lot of people in that sense. A lot of whistleblowers, a lot of partnerships, seeing the partnerships, the networks come up. So a lot of activity around who is connected to who, that network aspect. And a lot of people who have been on the inside of those networks and partnerships coming up as whistleblowers. And of course, we always want to appreciate the genuine whistleblowers who come up and come forward because they are putting everything on the line to bring this information out, to bring this exposure out. So, any way that we can support that, with, some of us, there's only so much we can do, but we can at least support it energetically. We can support it through our thoughts. We can support it by demanding that they be heard, supporting that their voice is made known, supporting that, what they're saying is getting out there, these types of things. So very, very important to look at that. So a lot of activity around the whistleblowers, the sleepers. Again, health and pandemic scares coming up. So again, I think we're going to see this. This is weaving in because remember, health pandemic scares are also interwoven with wars, and they're interwoven with the CBDC system. So wanting to roll out this financial system that is completely controlled, social credit type systems is what they're looking for. And we know that once you're in a system like that, you don't have any say over anything. You just because your money's there, that doesn't mean you get to keep that money. It doesn't mean it'll be there in an hour or 2 hours later. It doesn't mean that you get to do what you want with that money, things like that. So again, seeing this health piece that comes out, I think they're gonna start pushing more viruses. We're gonna hear more about that. Again, people's health is vulnerable, so they're gonna use that, and they're gonna try to create some more pandemic scares. Is it gonna work? I don't know. People are really just more and more seeing how this game plays out and realizing that indeed these are just scares, and this is not rooted in truth, and it's not rooted in validity, and these are not what they're being made out to be. So we just want to stay on guard, not just buy into something, not buy into the fear factor of things. We want to observe people to know where they really stand, and you can't know where somebody really stands unless you sit in observation. We oftentimes think we know where somebody is, but things change. And again, we've got a lot of twists and distortions. That's in the year codes right now, of people appearing to be one thing, not and being something different. So we just really want to sit in observation right now. This period is really helping people who haven't heard a lot of this information, hear this information. So for some people who have stayed on top of things for years now, this is not new news necessarily. It's just trying to be played out at this point. As far as our thoughts, our mindsets, the thinking aspects of what's going on in our world, events and affairs, a lot of learning, a lot of teaching, a lot of programming, a lot of gaslighting going on. So we want to be careful of that. We definitely want to learn, right? We definitely want to be open to teaching others. But the programming and the gaslighting, we really got to pay attention to that because they're getting better and better and better at it and making it, twist and turn. I've seen it. I've been looking at some things regarding some companies, and I'm like, oh, that's a tricky one there. Boy, they really are trying to pretend that they're, not playing the narrative games, and they are totally playing the narrative games. So it's going to be tricky a bit on that. Again, if we sit in observation, we'll be able to see through that gaslighting. Remember, the gaslighting, it's like putting words in somebody's mouth. It's like somebody, it's like if you go to a restaurant and the waitress says, you want to try the special today. Okay, that's gaslighting. That's programming your mind to say, "Oh, I want to try the special today," and it's not really your choice. It's putting a thought in your mind as opposed to you going with what you know to be true or know to be right in there. And so that is that mind game, those mental games, the thinking pattern is we will tell people what we want them to believe so that they will believe that and not look at other things. Also in this, we have how to work with others with different perspectives. And this calls us to say, how can we start reconciling our differences? Extremists are always going to be extremists, and we may not be able to get through to them. But the basic person, for example, living in Maine, you have a lot of people that love to organic farm, and they may be supporting people who are promoting the narratives, who are involved in the agendas and all of that. But we can start to bring those differences together and say, look, we've got some common ground. We all want healthy food. We all want good food. We all want to be able to grow our own food if we want to be able to grow it, these sorts of things. And so we can start to reconcile our differences by joining together where we have common ground in things. We're seeing this where, for example, in the gay community is a good example. There's a lot of gays, they want nothing to do with the drag shows. They do not want their community connected to the drag shows. And they are stepping out and standing up against it. So these are the types of things where we can start to reconcile our differences, and we have to be careful. We don't want to lump everybody into these categories just because the news and the media and the people promoting the agendas are using different groups for things. We have to make sure we're not just lumping them all in there and say, look, we've got to we've got to start figuring out, how we can join forces here. Um, to stand up for what truly benefits us, as opposed to just arguing all the time in things. And I think that starts by looking at things from different perspectives, seeing the values, seeing what's important, and then starting to have that open discourse. Okay, so you really care about the environment. Guess what? So do I. I really care about the environment. I don't support the narratives around the environment, though. And that's where we start to open the discourse. I absolutely want to work with you to do something beneficial for the environment, but we need to do it through the truth and not the lies that are being promoted to us in there. And that's where it comes from. It comes from finding our common ground. And then the soul self energy. We're going to see lots of tests and temptations. So people are already feeling pretty maxed out. I know a lot of people, they're like, yeah, let me check out, let me get out of the matrix, these sorts of things. And there's going to be lots of tests and temptations for humanity coming in, I think, in August of what are we going to do? Are we going to repeat the past? Are we going to take different directions? But what we need to do is not get wrapped up in the panic and the fear of things. And we need to take the time to observe before we engage in doing something. This is going to be very important. And as we know, things that are rooted in the corruption, that are rooted in these agendas, they don't want you to stop and think about things. They don't want you to observe things because they know if you do that, you will actually see what they are up to. But we need to do that, and we need to not be in that fear and that urgency energy, because that actually keeps us from seeing what's really happening, and that leads us to make poor decisions. If we stand in observation, we can make wise decisions, we can see what's happening, and we can take ourselves down some favorable paths instead of unfavorable ones. A lot of power battles will be coming up. And this, again, is more of a spiritual or an energetic battle than a physical battle, even though we do have some of those war components coming in. It is really about a battle of ethics, a battle of morals. And so they will probably use morals and ethics like, well, if you really care about the environment, you'll do this. If you really care about people, you will put this mask on. You will do this. You will do that. And it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with control. It's guilting people into taking a desired action is what it is. So that corruption, that materialism is seeking to break people's spirit. And they want people to believe that they are hopeless. They want to believe that they will suffer tremendously if they don't follow this materialistic path and what these people playing out agendas want to do in things. And they're going to use the lies and the deception to do it. They're going to use the manipulation techniques to do it in there. So we want to be very careful. Whatever shows up, don't let it break your spirit. If you need to go spend time in nature, if you need to disconnect from technology, whatever you need to do, if you need to connect with some like-minded other people, I mean, we have that in my study session group, every new moon, full moon time frame, I run a study session group. We have some great discussions going on in there, and people can come in and talk about things. We talk about world affair things. We talk about things happening in personal lives. We talk about all kinds of different things, concepts, ideas, all kinds of things. And so for a lot of people, that helps them to hold on and keep their spirit going and not let it be broken. Um, there's going to be, again, these attempts to enslave people through materialistic things. And that is going to come, for example, again, I think the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, is going to rise to the surface pretty big in August. And this is about holding material gain over people. Just like I was saying, it's like once you go into that system, it's like, oh, you want money to eat? Well, then you'll do what I say. You'll take this action. You won't speak up against us. You will be silenced. You will do this. You will be subservient. Things like this. So it's an enslavement, is what it is, and it's enslaving people by holding material, either basic needs or other things that they want, over them in order to control their actions. And this works against our spirit. This works against the soul self. And if we go down that path, we are going to lead a miserable life, because one thing that we know is a fully materialistic life is miserable. Nobody who has a ton of money is truly happy. I mean, there's comfort, there's enjoying life, and yes, you could be happy with some material things, but it's not the materialism that provides true happiness. A lot of those material things, it's just a false happiness in there. So these are all the things we want to pay attention to, all the things we want to be aware of. I hope this helps you keep your eyes out when you start to see things come up in the news and you start to see things come up across social media and other places of what is going on and what is happening. Don't be afraid to come back and listen to the video again so that you're like, I think I remember saying something about that. And make sure you like it, make sure you share it out, make sure you let other people know, because the more we can get people aware, the more that we can get people thinking with a clear mind and seeing through the agendas and the narratives, then the less power these things can have over us. And we want to be strong in ourselves. We want to be strong in our own lives. And that's not a political thing. That is about living well. And I believe we can get there, and I believe we can do it. Yes, we have challenges ahead of us, but if you can share this out, if you like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, then we're one step closer. We're one step closer to making these agendas crash down and to actually getting into a world and creating a direction that is favorable for people and that does support people having what they need and being able to enjoy life truly and not just falsely. So take care, everybody. I will see you next month. Don't forget, the code journey for 2024 is going to be released in August. And if you haven't picked up 2023, there's still time to pick that up. We've still got a lot of the year left, and you may want to check it out and have that to work with. So you've got all the information to work with. Take care, and I will see you soon.